All right, everybody, welcome to this session of Thundercast, and we have Dr. Nicole, and she is in the business of productivity optimization. Say hi, Dr. Nicole. Why don't you give us a 10,000-foot view of yourself and what you do?
Sure. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. So I am by trade, I'm a psychologist and a somatic therapist, which means I use tools and techniques to engage the breath and the body to move out limiting belief systems and self-sabotaging habits that keep people from being their best.
I like it. How long have you been doing this for?
Oh, it's going on over 20 years now.
Wow, that's a lot of experience.
Yeah, all experience that came from my own personal journeys.
Wow. So speaking of personal journeys, what would you say are some of the biggest obstacles that you personally have had to overcome to achieve this level of success in your business?
Well, I got into the field. That's not what I started out doing as a career. I got into the field because I was looking for alternative modalities to help me manage my depression, and kind of not use medication anymore. So I started to go down rabbit holes of breath work and like mantra repetition and meditation and yoga, and kind of put my feet in all of the pools and found out what worked for me and what helped me stay balanced, if there is such a thing, but not relying on medication anymore. And so then it led me to kind of put it all together, use myself as the guinea pig to see if it actually worked, like what I thought I wanted to use for myself, all the tools. And then I created a center out of it. So that's how this all came about.
Wow, that's a lot. So you've done a lot. You've experienced all the different modalities.
I have, yes. I've tried it all. I thought, what the heck do I have to lose? I would rather try anything else, and then be on medication. So
Of all the people I've interviewed in the last couple of weeks, so you're one of the ones I'm most excited about, because when you talk to business owners, right, all business owners hit these walls and they come up against it. And I think it's been my experience and the experience of many people that I've talked to, that you have to do two things. You have to be able to address your history and your past and your traumas, right? And then you also have to be able to look forward. And I think that as a business owner, you need a therapist, but you need a coach, right? And they do different things. And therapists help you look back and heal the damage in the past that's maybe holding you back. And a coach helps you look forward to achieve the goals you want to get to. Does that make sense?
right. It does make sense, yes. And the beauty about what I do, however, is I don't need you to tell the story of your past. We don't ever need to address it. We just have to figure out where the uncomfortable feelings are sitting in the body, or what you perceive as the roadblocks, and then do the work, like do specific tools and techniques to do the work of like literally unblocking that channel between the brain and the body that was established back in the day, whenever it was. So with my work, I don't need to know when, I don't need to know why. I just need to know, how are you feeling today and what's in your way. So, and that's how I kind of set myself apart from other people. Traditional therapists, right? We're talking about our story a lot. We're telling our story. We're trying to find the root cause. And in my work, I can find the root cause without having to tell the story. So I prefer it that way.
I think that's very powerful too, because I've done a lot of therapy myself, and what I have noticed in the conversations that I have with my therapist is always, when you talk about the story, you're re-traumatizing yourself. So
Yes.
revisiting it is not necessarily helping you, but it's the emotion you need to work on. So that's a really good perspective. I like that. That's the
Yes.
first time I've heard that. Yeah.
Yes, and it's true. Like if you tell your story over and over and over again, you're cementing it further and further and further into your
Right.
nervous system. That's what I believe. And so then it takes more work to get it out of your nervous system and rewire the beliefs that, were kind of taken on by you, no matter what the trauma was. And then so that's why people are in therapy for decades, is because we're retelling our story and it's going further down. And we're not addressing like the things in present day that are our obstacles. It doesn't matter where they began. That's how I feel. Like, it doesn't matter why I, struggle with depression, what trauma that came from. What matters to me is like, what can I do about it today? Where do I feel blocked? How am I self-sabotaging myself? And what can I switch in order to change how my brain thinks about those particular feelings anytime they come up? So we can't talk or think our way out of an issue. We actually have to move energy out of the body and literally physically do something different in order to rewire a brain and make a new pattern. So
Right. No, I totally agree. And that's a great perspective. So without, obviously you can't divulge any of your clients' names or anything, but is there any success stories that you can tell us without naming any names, in terms of some of the work that you've done with people, and how they turned it around, and what their process was and what their ultimate success was?
yeah, absolutely. So the first person that comes to mind was she was younger. She was probably in her late 20s, and she just kept hitting the same roadblock in business and in life. And on top of that, she kept having miscarriages. So that's an energetic, it's all around loss and grief, right? And so she kept hitting the same roadblocks in business as well, where she kept hitting this point of success and then she would lose it all, and hit the point of success and lose it all. And then in her personal life, she was losing everything as well. So for me, that all is related. So we kind of went in, did some initial, before you work with me, especially if you're going through something like that's extreme, like losing on every end of the spectrum, we have to get your nervous system regulated a little bit. Because any work that we do might bring up some emotional components that may seem overwhelming. And if your nervous system is taxed, then it's going to be more damaging to you than it is healthy. So we just do some nervous system work. But she worked with me for maybe 6 months, maybe seven. And after that 7 months, she kind of felt better. She was doing better, found a new relationship, kind of moved on with life. Within 6 months of leaving me, her business blew up. She's now one of the most incredible fascial therapists in Arizona. And she's doing trainings around the world. Like, she just got back and led her own training in Iceland. And then she's pregnant. And so we kind of just removed the root issue, and everything in life blew up after that. And then it flows with grace and ease, and there are no obstacles because we've removed the obstacles internally. And the internal obstacle, the emotional obstacle, the mental obstacle is what creates all of the challenges in our external life. And loss is loss. It doesn't matter if it's loss of life or loss of a business, it's still loss. So it was all connected. And now she's just like, I see her all the time on social media, and she's literally thriving. Like, she's pregnant again. So like, I'm so happy for her. And every once in a while I get a great message from her, just saying like, thank you, because without that work, like, I'd have been stuck. And so she's probably like my biggest, I'm her biggest fan, because she worked hard to get there. Yeah.
That's a great story. Is it similar with everyone? Like, when someone meets with you, they have an issue, they have a block, and it's about freeing the block. And is the process the same, or is it very different for everybody?
No, it's different for everybody. It's individualized. It's very customized. So, let's just say you were dealing with loss and she had been dealing with loss. Your process is very different from hers, because of the way you view the world, because of the filters that you have, because of the way you process information, how you allow yourself to feel emotion. Some people feel it, some people don't like to feel it. So I take all of that into consideration and do what I think is best and the least triggering for your nervous system. And my goal is to just rewire the brain and create new neural pathways so that you're not repeating the same patterns over and over and hitting the same blockages. So it's really customized for everyone. Yeah, everyone gets their own program.
So how long does it usually take for someone? I mean, I know it's obviously answer is probably different for everyone, but is it are some people weeks, or some people months, or are most people years?
I don't have clients for years. It's like it's the beauty and the downfall of my business. I don't have long-term clients. They do get better, and so I'm the therapist without long-term clients. I would say an average of 3 to 6 months is
Wow.
pretty a good time frame of how long it might take somebody to kind of literally break through and then kind of start soaring.
But I think
Yes.
that says a lot about you, right? Because most of the time, when you see a doctor, there's long-term meds, or oh, it's going to take years to work on this in therapy, right? And I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think you're
right.
supposed to. I've had some bad stuff happen, and I've been in therapy for years and years and years. And I agree. I agree that there are quicker ways of moving through some of this stuff, and I think that speaks to how amazing you are. I obviously I know you, so I know people who work with you, and yeah, I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, I am a huge believer in therapy. Obviously I have a therapist. I'm a therapist who has a therapist. All therapists have therapists, by the way. And I use her for when something just feels too big to move through with what I do, right? So I just need an outside perspective. Sometimes we're too close to it and we can't see it clearly. And that's how I use my therapist. But I think whatever works for the individual is I'm a huge fan of, right? So if it's working for you and you're making progress, then I would say stick to it. If you've been in therapy for years and you're hitting the same obstacles, then I would say maybe you want to take a look at not leaving therapy, but maybe adding something in that might help it move quicker, But everybody's their own person, There's no one size fits all for everyone. We all get to choose what works for us. And just for me, it was, I don't want to be on medication. I felt like a zombie. I was not creative. I was losing my business. It just wasn't working for me. So I had to find a different way to become, like where there was life force running through me. And I felt like I wanted to be part of the world. And so that's what I did. I just went on a journey to help myself, and this is what came out of it. Because I was a fashion designer before I did this. I designed clothing. Like, this is not what I started out doing.
Awesome. So you clearly had a calling, right?
Yeah. Out of my own need, which I think is most successful business people create businesses from a need from their own life. And then they figure out a way to create the answer to that need. And then I think then success, if it's part of who you are and your heart and your drive and your passion, I think success is inevitable for someone.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions about the techniques that you use, because I've seen a couple of them. You do breath work, obviously, and you do kind of a kinesthetic thing where we do
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah, right. So I use breath work and what's considered mudra therapy, which is just acupressure through the hands. There are specific points on the hands that lead to specific organs and parts of the brain, and we use those points in conjunction with breath work to create a new pattern or to break a current pattern. But I also do I also engage somatic tools, which means engaging the body. So we'll twist as we're breathing or doing something to kind of move the energy in the body. So those are the three main things that I use. Yeah.
Wow. You once did a thing where you were explaining to us to breathe out of one nostril as opposed to another. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yeah, sure. So one side of your face or your body is a specific energy. So the left side of your body is considered feminine energy, nurturing, calming, relaxing. And the right side of your body is considered masculine, action taking, like moving forward. And so the left and right nostril, when you breathe through one or the other, creates different effects in the body and the brain. So if you were to block off your right nostril and simply just take long, deep breaths through your left nostril, we use left nostril breathing when I need to calm down, when I need to put myself into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest nervous system, which you need to be in when you go to sleep. So left nostril breathing is really helpful for people who have a problem falling asleep. You would just breathe through your left nostril for 1 to 3 minutes and you should fall asleep pretty quickly. Now, if you're a person in the morning who finds it hard to get up and you keep hitting the snooze button, then you want to put energy into your body, vital life force, wake yourself up. So you would block your left nostril off and you would breathe through your right nostril only for 1 to 3 minutes to kind of revitalize yourself. And so they're used, very specific, for very specific reasons. And it's one of the easiest things you can do. And it's pretty accurate every time. I have yet to meet somebody that said, yeah, I did left nostril breathing and I'm still awake at 4 a.m. Like, it's not possible. I don't think it's possible.
So these days I have no trouble falling asleep. None.
That's awesome.
I my head hits the pillow and I'm out. But
that's good.
There are some days I'll set my alarm for 5. There's some days I'll wake up at 4 and I'm up and I just go. But like today was a day, like I woke up and I was like, oh, like I'm telling you, blocking off the left nostril probably would have worked well for me. So it's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just also one of those, if like you're in the middle of like a work day and you find yourself in a lull, we get into a lull about like between 2 and 4. Everybody feels a lack of energy or a loss of energy. It's really good to right nostril breathe in the middle of the day, especially if you have things to finish or accomplish and you're like in the middle of them and you feel like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Right nostril breathing will give you that like little pep or oomph to keep going and just finish the task at hand. So
yeah, I think I'm going to use that too, because there are days like I've taken, I hate to say this, but I'm over 50 and I've just
Me too.
Oh, you don't look over 50. So you don't look
well, you don't either.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I take naps. I will finish a call and I'll sit back and I'll be like, I need a nap. So I've learned it. Take 30 minutes or 2 hours. Don't do anything different. Because if you sleep over 30 minutes, you're going to be even worse off. And I wish I'd known that years ago, because like it works. Set it for 30 minutes and get up, because it kills you.
Yes, because you go into a different cycle of sleep after 30 minutes, right? You go into a deeper theta state, which means it's harder to get out of. And it leaves you groggy and kind of filmy. I always call it like there's a film over you,
Yeah.
God bless anybody who can take a nap. I think it's incredible that anybody can take a nap, because even if I lay down, like there's no, like, I'm not sure how anybody does that. Like, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I'm not a napper.
Well, in full disclosure, because I started the conversation, it was a time when I couldn't. And that's really a thing that I really started this year. Like I will have a lot to do and I will be exhausted. I'm like, it doesn't all have to happen right this moment, but it's got to happen before 5 or 6. So let's get some energy back. I'll go take a 30-minute nap. I'll make sure I get up in 30 minutes. Sometimes I don't fall asleep. Sometimes I lay down,
relax.
Right. And I'll watch YouTube for 30 minutes and then I'll just distract myself. I'll come back and I'll be refreshed. And in my youth, I thought, what an obnoxious practice. I mean, honestly, I would try to do it in my youth and I just couldn't, because I'd be so wired. I have ADHD. I'd be so wired. I'd be vibrating. And now it's like, I feel I'm up at 5. I wasn't always getting up at 5. I get up, I work out, I do a lot more. So it helps me my day, right? So
yes, but I think it's a good thing that you listen to your body, because I think most entrepreneurs don't listen to their body. I also think entrepreneurs are disconnected from their body.
Well, I have questions about that, because I do not trust my body. I don't.
Yeah.
My body says we need to sleep in, or I don't feel like working out, or I want more food. Those things I do not trust about my body.
No,
ever.
Right. Well, those are trauma patterns, right? Like those are just trauma patterns. But I believe like entrepreneurs have this tendency to push through no matter what, keep going, no excuses, blah, 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 blah. And then they burn out and then they lose everything, or they get sick, and so wouldn't it be better to just be like, you know what, I need a half an hour break right now, because I'm not being productive.
I'm coming up with a lot of questions right now.
Yeah. It's better to be productive than busy. That's how I feel. You can be productive in 3 hours a day and maybe busy for 10 hours and get nothing done.
Agreed.
So I feel that you should listen to yourself, and you'll be able to distinguish whether it's a lie or not. Like telling yourself you need more food or sleep in, I mean, it's probably not the best thing for you. So you know that, so you won't listen to that. But that's what I mean. Like when you get in touch with yourself, when you have a better relationship with your body and your mind, you'll be able to distinguish which is truth and which is a trauma. And so, you know.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. So before I forget, I want to roll back because I used to have in my 20s and my early 30s, my philosophy is I'll sleep without when I'm dead. I got shit to do, right? And that broke me. Your body will make you rest, and it
Yes,
will
it
not
will.
be convenient. And take a little inconvenience now and rest and eat appropriately, because if you
Mhm.
don't, something's going to happen and your body will force you. All right, or you will,
Absolutely.
or you
Yep.
will be dead,
It
right? And that's what
it
happened.
will shut you. Yeah, it'll shut you down.
It did. I got type 2 diabetes. I was done. I couldn't get up anymore. Right. And then the doctors made it worse by giving me all kinds of medication. And I swelled up with all the medication. I swelled up to 305 pounds. And I'll never forget talking to my endocrinologist. It's like, your numbers are great. Fantastic. Good job. And I'm like, wow, I can't sleep. I feel miserable. I have no energy. My poor wife cannot talk to me without me biting her head off, doc. He's like, well, that's your life
Yeah.
now. Right. Good news. Your sugar's under control.
Yeah. Your sugar's under control, but everything else is a wreck.
Right.
But your
Right.
labs are great.
Right, right. So, I mean, look, doctors, I have their uses, and if you let them, they will kill you slowly, but they will kill you. And I don't
I
mean to
don't
speak ill of
disagree.
the profession, because there are a lot of good doctors out there, but yeah, so we don't have to get into that. So, on that note, what got me there? What got me to that point in the first place was this anxiety. And I think that's something that all entrepreneurs struggle with, right? We have anxiety.
Absolutely.
If we didn't, most people who start a business will eventually have anxiety. And the thing is,
Yes.
it's always going to be there. I just said to someone else the other day, you're always going to have a crisis. You're a small business owner, you're always going to have a crisis, and thus you're going to have anxiety, and you have to learn how to
Mhm.
manage it. How would you tell entrepreneurs and business owners, great, what's your suggestion for maintaining and managing anxiety?
So I believe you're right. There'll always be a crisis, even in a person who doesn't own a business, right? Life is life. It hands us all
Right.
kinds of things every day. It's how we deal with it, and like you said, how we manage it that makes the difference. So I think, especially for me, I have high levels of anxiety. It's like no surprise. And so the easiest thing I do to manage my anxiety is anytime I feel it come up, you can feel it. Everybody knows what that feels like, right? It's either a tightness in the chest, it's either a racing heart, or like this like nausea in the stomach, or the shaking in it, like you sweat, like everybody knows the signs. And as soon as you feel the sign, be like, that again, you have to be in touch with yourself. You just can't ignore it and like push through it, right? So because we need to retrain your nervous system to be able to handle like a difficulty without going into an anxiety response, because an anxiety response is a stress response, and stress responses put you in survival, and survival mode is nowhere you want to live. It's not a quality of life. It'll kill you faster than anything, any disease. So the easiest thing I say is, like, when it comes up, you can do it while you're working. It's very effective in the first 10 seconds. You'll feel it go away. You'll feel it start to dissipate. I work sometimes just like this. I put my middle finger down and I press my thumb all the way at the top of the inside.
On the right
And
hand?
it doesn't matter, either hand. You can do it both. It's like you're going to a weird concert that's not quite rock, but maybe,
Right. It's the reverse of flipping someone off.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I hate
And
you, it's I love you.
you're causing me a lot of stress right now. I'm trying to manage my anxiety. There's a point here at the top of the middle finger on the inside between the index and the middle finger. That's the point, acupressure point for your pericardium that surrounds your heart. When you have anxiety, the pericardium constricts and it causes your heart rate to go up, and it causes tightness in the chest, and then it starts to tell the brain that you're in survival or something's threatening you, and it dumps stress hormones into your gut and you get nauseous. So this will stop it in the first 10 seconds. And all you need to do is sit there and breathe, take a few deep breaths, hold this for about 1 minute to 3 minutes is the max I tell anybody to do it. It passes, you move on. And now you've just survived an anxiety response and then reprogrammed your brain to react in a different way. so that you don't go into a full-blown anxiety response. But that's my quickest, easiest tool, and I use it probably every day. Yeah.
What about breathing? Someone once told me that you can't, if you control your breathing, you can't be anxious and breathe in a cadence at the same time.
Absolutely. So the best breath work for that then is what's called 3-point breath. 3-point breath is 3-point breath and square breath. There's two. Navy SEALs use 3-point breath and square breath to control their breathing when they're, undercover and about to like go in somewhere, incognito. 3-point breath is where you take 4 segmented inhales. You breathe in 4 times. And then you hold the breath in for 4 counts. You'll have to mentally count. And then you exhale 4 times. And it slows your breath rate down. Anytime you can slow your breathing rate down and keep a particular, like you said, cadence, your brain is interpreting that as you are safe and you're secure, and it doesn't need to kick in your survival response. So on an average day, humans breathe, especially nowadays in this current world state, humans breathe between 16 and 20 times a minute. And anything over 10 is a state of stress.
Wow. Wow.
So the world is in a state of stress. The world is in a constant state of stress. And that will literally cause disease in your body if you're in a constant state of stress. So if you can figure out ways to slow down your breath rate, you'll become healthier, you'll become more clear-minded, you'll become more productive. And so 3-point breath is like my go-to, especially for people who are very, very like high functioning, high performing executives. I say start your day off with 3-point breath and maybe do it in the middle of the day again. Just to control your breath rate. We tend to get heightened, heightened states of excitement and pressure during the day.
Right. So, wow, so many more questions. I wish we had more time. Let's see what we can fit in. So let's talk about neuroatypicals, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
Sometimes I don't feel stress, right? I'm ADHD, like very. But I would say like I'm breathing a lot because I've got a lot I want to say. I mean, is there such a thing as healthy anxiety, or is it all anxiety bad? Like sometimes
No.
right?
Yeah, all anxiety is not bad, right? We need a certain level of anxiety in some situations to cause us to move forward or to take action or to follow through on something. It's not all bad. Or like we need certain anxiety when we are being threatened, right? We need to be able to run away. We need to be able to engage ourselves and get ourselves safe. So no, not all anxiety is bad. Prolonged chronic anxiety is bad. Like if it's every day you're having, anxiety attacks or stress responses that are extreme, then that is really, really detrimental to your health, especially your mental health. The more anxiety and stress we experience in a chronic, progression through our life, the more our mental health wears down. So we don't have as much resilience anymore. But no, it's not all bad. Listen, I'm on the spectrum. I am neurodivergent as it gets. And I have anxiety, at some point every day, but it's not detrimental to me. It's like, I'm in touch with everything, especially in my body, and I feel everything deeper than most people do. I have stimulus stuff, right? Sometimes it's just too much for me, but it tells me it's too much for me. And that's how I preserve my nervous system, is by getting a little bit of anxiety that tells me I need to get out of this situation. It's too much stimulus right now. And if I don't get out of it, I'll freak out or like have a full-blown anxiety attack. So here's a little bit, get out, but that's just over time, you learn to listen to that part of yourself, and those little bouts of anxiety will give you a story and tell you what you need to be doing. So, especially with neurodivergent people, if you're neurodivergent. Yeah.
The more I talk to people, the more I think like everyone's on a spectrum because we're as normal. It's like
Absolutely.
it's just difference in personality, right?
Yeah, I believe I'm with you. Everybody's on the spectrum. I just say it out loud because I want to take the stigma away from it. I'm tired of people like, labeling people as like they don't have as much cognitive function. It's like it's not true. We can
Right.
lead normal lives and have successful businesses.
Some of us have
Yeah,
too much in some areas, right? Like
absolutely. Yeah.
speed at which my thoughts flow are, I feel like I have whiplash sometimes. Like I can just blast through things, but I'm a good problem solver. I really am. That's really where my strength is, right? They say you're superpower, but I'm a good problem solver, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
think that's a good viewpoint. The thing that other people would think would be really difficult, like, oh my God, your brain doesn't stop. That must be awful. You're like, no, I can just solve problems. Like it becomes becomes your bonus and maybe their, their kind of thing that weighs them down, but we're all different.
right. I guess a great way of explaining is like my brain will go fast all the time and I'll be fine with it until I have to interact with somebody. And just the act of
Yeah.
slowing down for somebody else, that's when the whiplash comes. And
Yeah.
that's what's hard. And right there, it might think that maybe I can't form a sentence or I can't be coherent or I can't explain it. It's just I have to slow it down for you. Because
Yeah.
I know people who are much smarter than me in many different ways, and they cannot keep up with my thought process, right? But they're
Yeah.
good at absorbing information fast. That's not where
Right.
I'm good, right?
Right.
So
Right.
everyone has their own strength.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. I'm like you. My brain's always going. It doesn't shut off. I have to do very particular things at night in order to fall asleep. Otherwise, I am up for days. It's just who I am because it just doesn't turn off. There's always an idea. There's always something. There's always another thing to write. There's always blah, blah, blah. And so I'm just like you. And so, again,
Working
when I
out
talk, go
work,
ahead.
working out solved that for me. That's why I fall asleep. Like I make sure that I am physically ready to go. I wouldn't say exhausted, but I'm ready. But if something happens, if something catches my attention while I'm doing my night routine, I'm doomed. I'm doomed. Like I can't put on YouTube when I go to sleep because I'm like, oh, that is really cool. And I'll be like hyper
Yeah.
focused, right? I have
Right.
to be really careful about the stimulus when I'm going to bed. I gotta follow my pattern,
Yeah.
go into bed and roll over, and then I can do it.
Yeah. For me, it's just if I don't do particular things, there's just no sleeping. I have insomnia a lot. So and sometimes the tools don't even work for me just because of how I'm made up.
Right.
And that for me, I've learned to deal with too is like, well, I can stay up for 2 days. I can get a lot done in 2 days. And then I can sleep. So like, I mean, it works for me sometimes, but I also have the depression that I struggle with is also depression is not sadness, it's anger and insomnia. So there's that too.
Anger. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, nobody does.
It's
We
like
all
the
deny we know anything about.
it's that they ever see the Hulk when he says his secret. He's like, my secret is I'm always angry. I think that's every guy. It's like we're just managing it most of the time, right? We're just not telling anybody, you know.
Yeah. I think that especially in men, that anger just comes from not being able to feel free your whole life to express emotion. That's where I think it comes from. It's your emotion has been stifled for so long that like it has to come out. And anger serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Anger is one of the best ways to get emotion out of the body, as long as it's not directed towards anybody.
Well, that's what working out is good for. This is
Yeah,
such
absolutely.
a great release. It's just so amazing.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So the next question I had was meditation, right? So anger. So we talk about ADHD and anxiety and anger and meditation, right? So you were talking about high productive people earlier, high performers in breathing in
Mhm.
the morning. Do you recommend breath work with meditation or separate from meditation?
So my definition of meditation is probably different from everybody's. I think meditation is anything that you do repetitively that makes you feel at peace and calm. I don't particularly think meditation, like traditional meditation where we sit and like mindfulness meditation. I do not think every human should be doing that. I think it's triggering for some people, especially if you have a mind that goes very quickly. It's very hard to sit still and just like be. Like, first of all, you can never shut your mind off, no matter how good you are at it. So there's that. So I think we're always trying to accomplish something in traditional meditation that isn't attainable. Like, you can't shut your mind off. You can just not pay attention to the thoughts. That's different. Don't pay attention to the thoughts. But like, again, somebody with like ADHD or my brain, like sitting quietly and being still, like, and trying to meditate is not for me. It makes me nuts. It makes me feel crazy. So again, I think that especially with high performers, executives, they should find what works for them. Are you able to sit still and be silent? Because it's really disturbing for most people, because then you have to hear all the thoughts in your own head. Or do you need a form of meditation, whether it be breath work, or some people recite mantra, right? Like, there are a million different kinds of ways to meditate. And so my advice is to do what's best for you. Now, I might be biased, but I would say breath work, but specific breath work, because it's all not good for everyone. Specific breath work is one of the things that you should incorporate into your daily routine, especially in the morning, to set yourself up for success. I mean, you can literally change your nervous system and your mindset through breath work without having to sit there and try to change your mind. Like, you just can't change your mind. It's not, if we could just change our mind, we would all have done it already.
I feel like that I would benefit from that. I feel like, when I get up in the morning, if I just had a way of just leveling off and starting my day from a launch point, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right? Because sometimes I just get up and I go and I'm rushing. There's so many things going ahead. I got this customer, this client, I got to call this person, I got to do this for my kid, I got to call the ex-wife, I got to do this, I got to do this. It's just background noise. It's just background noise.
And when you get up like that, you go immediate like that, it puts you into a sympathetic nervous system state, which is, if you're in a prolonged period of time, becomes a stress response. So if you can get up, do something to kind of what I call neutralize, not balance, just neutralize your nervous system so you're not in one extreme or the other, and then start from that space, then you're in a much better position than just like going and then like burning yourself out by 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I saw on I was flipping through Facebook like everyone does. Sometimes I'll do that when I have an hour, or like when I'm at the gym right between sets, and I'll be going through videos, and this thing came up and it said, just concentrate on the background for 14, 15 seconds. And it said, now listen to the noises for 15 seconds. And it says, you just meditated. And I'm like, that was brilliant. Talk about the solution to people's addiction to media, right? And I like that as someone who has ADHD, because you're right. I tried meditating, quiet the mind. Oh my God, I had more anxiety afterward. But I followed that. My hyper attention was like just focused, just leaves, just like it was this beautiful background of fall leaves and trees. And it was like, wow, that was pretty intense, right? So there are different ways to meditate.
There are very different ways to meditate. One time I was in a mastermind. I was in this mastermind group, and they were having their weekly class was on meditation, and this expert was telling them how to do mindfulness meditation, and some guy like spoke up and said, like, if I do that, like, I want to kill somebody. Like, it just makes me angry, right? Like, he was very honest. I was kudos for telling us how you feel. So I asked if I could chime in for a moment, and they said yes. And I said, what's your favorite thing to do? Like, what brings you the most peace and joy in your life? And he said, sharpening knives. I'll never forget it. And I said, what happens when you sharpen a knife? Like, what do you feel? He's like, I feel so calm. Like, my mind goes quiet. I'm only focusing on the sound of the metal hitting the stone. And I go, but that's meditation. There's a sound. There's a repetitive movement. It brings you peace. And that is meditation. I was like, dude, you can make money out of your meditation. You could start sharpening knives on the side and make it your hour meditation each day. But that is meditation. You've just done the same thing. And so there's always this preconceived notion about what it should look like, but it doesn't have to look like anything. It can look like whatever works for you again, right? Yeah. You might benefit from binaural beats, they're called.
Binaural beats. I don't know.
Yeah, like if you liked that meditation where you look at the the picture and then hear the sounds, binaural beats is music that's recorded using 2 different frequencies, and it's really, really good for people with ADHD.
Well, I definitely ADHD. All right, so I want to start bring us in for a landing here. Start taking us in. I got a couple more questions for you before we end it. So, you've given so many good pieces of advice. I mean, just so many good nuggets. And usually, I ask, my guests to tell us one good thing that someone could do to help increase their performance in their business. Something that they can turn into making money more effectively in their business. And you've given so many things, but if you had to pick one specific thing, even something you talked about today, what would you say everyone should do every day to improve their performance?
I say spend at least 3 to 5 minutes in the morning doing an exercise, a breath work, a tool, even if it's writing down like what you're grateful for, something to start your day off that's not just jumping into your day. That would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, I've heard that advice a lot too, about just do writing in the morning, write something in the morning.
Yeah, just write, or like a mental dump, like a brain dump, even if it's that, like just get it all out of your head. It can be anything, breath work, one breath. The beauty about all of it is it takes 3 minutes, maybe. Like, let's say it takes 3 minutes a day. Isn't your mental health, your emotional health, your performance, your productivity, and your success worth 3 minutes a day? Like, I think it is, or aren't you worth 3 minutes a day? Because that's where it lies. Like, you have to put yourself first in order to achieve success. If you're always putting yourself last, it will reflect in your business. So how would you put yourself first? Do something for yourself in the morning when you get up to set yourself up, put yourself first. I don't think many entrepreneurs put themselves first.
No, it's funny. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because, as I become more successful in my own business, I find that my success, especially over the last 3 years, directly correlates to how much personal growth I do, how much I work on myself, because the number one factor that's holding me back in my life is me, and to be more specific, my history that I won't acknowledge or can't acknowledge or haven't been able to work on. And that's why I think that you are one of the most important guests I've had in the last 2 weeks, because you address those issues directly.
Yeah, because I don't need to know what happened in your past. we don't
Right.
we don't need to know.
Right.
We don't need to know.
The story's not important. It's the damage. We got to repair the damage.
It's not even but it's not damage for me. Like, that's not damage. It's just we have to rewire. It's not damage. It just is. We just have to rewire it. Rewire the brain and body. Yeah, but you're not damaged. Nobody's damaged. That's it. Yeah, we're just a product of our environment. That's all.
There's so many more questions. I would love to have you back and talk about the wiring of the brain and the body, and how they're connected together, and memory and how that works, and where trauma is stored and how that works. I mean, we're just every time I read the stuff, and I have so many questions, we just learn so much more about how the body is dealing with trauma and the diseases that result from that trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, trauma is stored in the body. There's a great book that I highly recommend, but the title is so true, and it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And every time you feel anything, good, bad, ugly, pretty, beautiful, the body records it. It creates this pattern between it and the brain, and that it's done to keep you safe, really, so that the next time you feel it, you know what to do, right? So however, we get caught in response loops that aren't they are not the right response loop for the current day situation that's happening. And so we repeat the loop of our old trauma because we're having the same feelings. It feels the same. So the brain its only job, right? It allows us to do a lot of things, but it's really its main job is to just keep you safe. It's always trying to keep you safe and alive. And so if it's like, oh, I felt this way 20 years ago and I hated that feeling, and it created this link, and it's like, okay, anytime I feel this way, I'm going to pull out this response. And then you're 50, you find yourself at 50 years old and you have the same response. It's because you felt the same way and the brain interpreted it in the same way. The play that's going on and the players have no bearing on what's happening inside of you. The
Right.
brain only knows you felt the same. And so, yeah, it's fascinating, and it's held in every muscle, every organ, every piece of fascia. All of your emotions are stored there. And when they get clogged and they don't move or resolve, it creates disease in the body. Yeah.
So much more to talk about. We're definitely going to have you back on. Quickly, give people your website, your email address. We'll put this in the bottom of the video as well. But if someone wants to reach out to you, maybe, hire you for some work, how do they reach you?
Sure. So on social media, on Instagram, Dr. Nicole, my Dr. Nicole Coyle. Yep, Dr. Nicole Coyle. On Facebook, I'm Nicole Lynn Coyle, Lynn. Also, I have a YouTube channel called THRIVE Integrative Therapies with some breathwork and tools and techniques. And then my website is thriveaz.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being here. We're definitely going to have you on again. And, everyone listening, I hope you're going to take advantage of this amazing advice that this woman just gave us. There's pure gems here. Everyone have a
Thank
great
you for
day.
having me.